Hi, I'm William with Apartment Renovation NYC, and I'm here to talk about the cost of renovating an apartment in New York City for 2026. Renovating an apartment in New York City may appear a complicated process for owners going through it for the first time. New York City apartment renovation costs are shaped by materials and labor, building regulations, co-op condo board approvals, and Department of Building requirements. Understanding the true cost of renovating an apartment in New York City requires breaking the project into three primary categories: design fees, including architects and engineers, construction costs, including labor and materials, and third party services and filing fees. Average cost to renovate an apartment in New York City. The average cost to renovate an apartment in New York City typically ranges from $100 to $200 per square foot for cosmetic upgrades, $150 to $300 per square foot for mid-range renovation, $300 to $500 and up per square foot for a gut renovation. Example total cost by apartment size. For a studio, it can range from $75,000 to $150,000 and up. For a one-bedroom apartment, the range is approximately $100,000 to $250,000 and up. For a two-bedroom apartment, the range is $150,000 to $400,000 and up. Costs vary significantly depending on layout changes, building type, and level of finish. In New York City, setting a realistic apartment renovation budget from the start before signing with a contractor is one of the most important steps an owner can take. The common mistake owners make is signing a contract with a builder/contractor prior to engaging an architect. The true cost of an apartment renovation in New York City is based on architectural drawings, not a builder's estimates based on their experience. Gut renovation versus non-gut renovation costs. Understanding scope of work is critical to understanding costs. For non-gut renovation, cosmetic renovation, the average cost is in the range of $100 to $200 per square foot, with the scope of work covered only being cosmetic updates, including finishes, fixtures, and paint. For a gut renovation, average cost is in the range of $250 to $500 and up per square foot. The scope of work typically includes plumbing replacement, electrical and mechanical upgrades, or layout changes. Most New York City apartment renovations that involve kitchens and bathrooms fall closer to the lower end of the apartment gut renovation costs in New York City, approximately the $250 to $300 and up per square foot range. Understanding which category your project falls into is the foundation of any accurate apartment renovation budget in New York City. A full gut renovation means the entire apartment is gutted, and the cost would be in the range of $400 to $500 per square foot range. Design service fees for architects and engineers. Design services define the project's scope, feasibility, and regulatory compliance. It is critical for owners to engage with an architect from the beginning of their apartment renovation in New York City to understand the possibilities of design. Keep in mind, builders are not authorized nor qualified to advise on floor plan layouts and design, and shall base their estimates only on architectural drawing sets. What design fees include? Design fees include layout planning and schematic design, construction drawings, DOB filing assistance, co-op/condo board approval assistance, consultant coordination, and construction administration. Typical design fee ranges for a kitchen or bathroom are around $4,000 to $6,000. For a one-bedroom apartment are around $7,000 to $10,000 and up. For a two-bedroom apartment are around $10,000 to $15,000 and up. Why design matters more in New York City. Layout changes shall be advised by an architect and involve careful review of light and air requirements, minimum room dimensions, wet over dry restrictions, egress, and life safety compliance. In New York City, design directly determines whether a project can be approved and built. This is especially true for apartment renovation projects in New York City, where custom layouts and premium finishes require extensive coordination. Architect insight from real New York City projects. In our work across Manhattan, including the Upper East Side, Upper West Side, and Chelsea, we frequently encounter conditions that significantly impact New York City apartment renovation costs and feasibility. Conditions that may not be apparent at the time of apartment purchase to owners or their real estate agents. An example is unpermitted bathrooms in an Upper West Side co-op. During an apartment renovation, we identified an existing bathroom that had never been filed with the building or the New York City Department of Buildings. Legalizing the installation required additional filings, coordination, and construction work that was not initially anticipated. Another example is an illegal layout alteration in a Chelsea co-op. While working on a kitchen renovation, our team noticed that the co-op apartment was originally a studio that had been illegally converted into a one-bedroom without required co-op and DOB approvals. We identified the discrepancy and guided the client through the legalization process. And in this case, the issue was resolved through negotiation with the original seller, who ultimately covered the cost of correction. Hidden building constraints in an Upper West Side co-op. During a renovation involving the addition of a second bathroom for a growing family, the proposed location was directly above the building's electrical and gas room, an area requiring strict moisture protection. We developed a custom waterproofing and construction detail in coordination with the product vendors. While the solution allowed the project to move forward and receive co-op approval, it introduced additional costs and coordination not reflected in early contractor estimates. This is why it is important for owners not to rely on contractor estimates that are not based on architectural drawings, and not to sign contracts with builders before an architect is involved. These scenarios highlight a critical reality in New York City. Existing conditions and building constraints often introduce costs that cannot be predicted without detailed architectural analysis and plans. Construction costs in New York City. Construction costs vary widely depending on scope, materials, and building constraints. Typical renovation cost ranges for a kitchen renovation are around $25,000 to $75,000 and up. For a bathroom renovation are around $25,000 to $50,000 and up. For a full apartment renovation are around $75,000 approximately starting and can go up from there. Each apartment renovation in New York City has construction costs that are on the fixed side per unit or square foot, such as demolition, new wall framing and insulation, waterproofing, in-wall electrical and plumbing, etc., which are initially estimated by the architect and confirmed by a builder prior to signing the owner-builder contract. On the other hand, costs associated with the selection of kitchen cabinets and other millwork, plumbing and lighting fixtures, finishes, appliances, and equipment may vary more radically. It is wise to have an upfront dialogue with an architect on design and cost. Material and fixture cost examples. For kitchen cabinetry, something like IKEA or stock cabinets can range around $10,000. For a mid-range cabinetry, $25,000 to around $35,000. For custom millwork, $50,000 and to $60,000 and up, typical for high-end apartment renovation in New York City. One of our favorite kitchen cabinet makers is Reform, with a showroom in Dumbo. Their work process is highly interactive. Their design tool estimates kitchen cabinets, drawer systems, and countertop prices, and provides updated cost per item in total. Our team provided the layout and dimensions for one of our kitchen remodel projects in Chelsea. You can browse between different collections in the interactive example below. Plumbing. For designer plumbing fixtures, prices can range from around $200. For designer bathtub fixtures, prices can range from around $1,600. For designer toilets, prices can range around $800 and going up. Fixtures add elegance to bathroom remodels and kitchen renovations in New York City. Some of our favorite brands are Quadro Design, Grohe, and Callista. Call us to find out the rest. With lighting, for standard fixtures, prices can range from around $200. For designer fixtures, prices can range from $800 and only increasing from there. We love playing with lighting in our interior designs for apartment renovation projects in New York City. From subtle use of LED strips to including our favorite design pieces to clients. To name a few, we love Davide Groppi, Floss, Luceplan, and Via Bizzuno, each having amazing lighting fixtures. When costs become accurate, architect insights. Construction costs provided by contractors are only reliable after a defined scope, completed architectural drawings, and detailed specifications. Early contractor estimates are often broad assumptions and exclude key regulatory elements. This is a key reason why, in New York City apartment renovation timelines, planning should always follow the design phase led by an architect. Real cost scenario. In a post-war apartment on the Lower East Side during construction, once demolition reached the bathroom, it became clear that the existing building riser pipe penetrations at the concrete slab were large and needed to be fire stopped with Hilti fire stop block to comply with NYC building code requirements. This required additional fire stopping work by the builder. Luckily, this scope of work was not a surprise, as our team requested that the contractor estimate allowances for concealed conditions. Having an experienced architect review builders' estimates is critical for a successful project. The result ended up with approximately an additional $2,000 in additional material costs and an added 1.5 weeks of construction time due to inspections and coordination. This type of condition is common in New York City buildings and reinforces why accurate pricing depends on detailed construction documentation prepared by an architect and an architect-led New York City apartment renovation, not preliminary builder estimates. Common New York City mistakes to avoid. Hiring a contractor too early. Signing with a contractor before design completion often leads to inaccurate estimates, change orders, budget overruns. This is one of the most common reasons budgets in apartment renovations in New York City projections go off track and is one of the most preventable. Think about it. What is a contractor estimating apartment renovation construction costs based on, if not the architect's drawings? It doesn't sound logical. Avoid additional costs by retaining an architect first. Once a deposit is paid to a contractor, owners feel stuck and things get harder. Be informed. The correct project sequence is to first hire an architect, consult on design with the architect, have your architect prepare contract documents, including drawing set and specifications, etc. Have the architect assist with selecting a contractor based on their estimates and qualifications. Then the architect advises on a form of agreement between an owner and a builder. And then an architect assists with building review, either condo or co-op, and DOB approvals, and then construction commences. Avoid irregularities and increased project costs by following industry standard protocols. Think of an architect as your advisor from the beginning of any New York City apartment renovation project. Third-party services and filing costs. New York City renovations require multiple approvals and reports. Below is a breakdown of typical services provided by third parties that can be expected on any New York City apartment renovation project. Typical costs include asbestos testing, which range around $500 to $3,000, an electrical load letter, which ranges around $1,500, DOB fees, which can start at $2,000, going to $6,000 and up, co-op board fees, which can start at around $500 and to $2,500 for their building architect. These costs can add an additional 5 to 10% to your total budget and are often overlooked when owners first calculate the cost of renovating an apartment in New York City. What drives New York City apartment renovation costs? Number 1, layout changes. Moving plumbing or walls significantly increases costs and directly impacts the apartment gut renovation costs in New York City. Keep in mind, each building in New York City has existing building systems in place that the apartment renovation project shall be designed along. Those constraints with specific co-op and condo board requirements may increase project costs, which an architect can advise on upon review of the house rules spelled out in an alteration agreement provided by your building's management. Number 2, building type. Co-ops usually have stricter approvals. Condos are slightly more flexible. Pre-war buildings have a lot of hidden conditions. Each era of buildings has one set of specificities, which is an architect's responsibility to discuss with an owner. Number 3, MEP systems. Electrical, plumbing, and HVAC upgrades are major cost drivers. On more complex New York City apartment renovations, an architect may advise that an engineering consultant needs to be engaged. Design fees shall be discussed early, and again, it would be an architect to advise which disciplines are required on a project basis. Number 4, level of finish. Stock versus custom materials dramatically affect pricing. High-end apartment renovation New York City projects with custom millwork, designer fixtures, and premium tile can push costs well above $400 per square foot. Real New York City renovation cost scenarios. Below are typically expected project costs depending on scale and complexity of an apartment renovation in New York City. A bathroom remodel project cost starts at $35,000 and can be expected to go to $50,000 and up for a low to medium range project. A kitchen remodel on a tight budget could start at $35,000 and climb to $75,000 for a mid-range end. A one-bedroom of approximately 700 square feet will range in a project cost within $110,000 to $210,000 going up. For a two-bedroom apartment of 1,200 square feet, owners may expect costs between $330,000 to $600,000 and up. New York City renovation cost breakdown, typical percentages. When we look at the total project cost, we can see that material and labor is the big chunk of the total sum, followed by design professional fees and third-party services such as New York City Department of Buildings expediting and New York City Department of Buildings Special Inspection Agency services. Contrary to other architectural firms, we decided to specialize even further on New York City apartment renovation projects. We're pleased to be able to offer DOB expediting and special inspection services. This decision was made based on years of experience working on apartment renovations in New York City and understanding how beneficial it is for a project to have those two services provided by an architect of record to streamline the project. Hidden costs in New York City renovations. These costs are often underestimated and can significantly impact your apartment renovation in New York City budget. Permit revisions, expediting fees, special inspections, temporary housing, unexpected structural issues, hidden conditions, and legalization of work performed without a permit by a builder. Embarking on a new New York City apartment renovation project is predictable with an experienced team that enforces quality assurance protocols. An open dialogue between architect and an owner is a must. It is important that an architect discusses matters with the builder on the owner's behalf. Owners are not familiar with construction laws. A poorly prepared contract between an owner and a builder is a recipe for a failure and increased project costs, whether due to change orders, a prolonged construction phase, or a failed inspection. Very important to understand, an architect shall advise the owner at each step of any New York City apartment renovation project. That's the only correct way. Don't fall for a builder's sweet talk. It sounds too easy to be true. Apartment renovation timeline in New York City. The apartment renovation timeline in New York City varies by scope, but owners should plan for the following general phases. Design and DOB filing, typically taking 2 to 3 months. Any co-op or condo board approval, which can take around 1 to 2 months. And construction beginning, and finishing, which can take around 2 to 6 months depending on the scope. The total project duration from first architect meeting to move in typically ranges from 6 to 12 months. With gut renovations and high end apartment renovation, New York City projects with complex layouts or landmark building requirements tending to run longer. How to plan a successful New York City renovation? The short answer is schedule a call with an architect, not a builder. This is indeed the industry standard. Aggressive advertisement by builders, many times false in relation to which services builders are qualified to provide, is unfortunately too common in New York City. Owners learned the hard way the truth about the New York City apartment renovation business during their first renovation project. Avoid the confusion and enjoy the privilege of transparency.